Me and my friends were camping for the weekend, and we were really excited, as we had planned it for weeks. There were 4 of us, 2 boys and 2 girls, 2 couples. We were deep in the woods when we decided to set up our tent. Each couple had their own tent. It was a moonlit night, so the brightness that was there was coming through the trees, even though it was still very dark, as the trees blocked out most of the moonlight, which added to the creepiness of the whole atmosphere deep in the woods. We lit a fire in the middle of the space we set up the tent. It was hard work gathering the wood, harder than I expected. I never expected it to be so hard building a fire in the woods. In the movies, it's almost like the fire is already there. After the fire was lit, we started drinking some beer and told ghost stories. Suddenly, when it was my time to tell my story, I heard some noise over by the trees. I feared it was a bear or even some crazy stalker. My friend walked over to investigate, and he suddenly jumped and screamed, then started laughing and said, "Oh my god, guys, ye are so over-dramatic." Then suddenly something caught his eye. He was bending down to look at something in the grass and picked it up. He seemed to be holding a piece of wood, and whatever was on it was making him act very strange. We all asked him, what was it? When he walked over, he showed us and said, "That's weird, right?" It was a piece of wood with "Find Me" written in red. I felt fear overcome me, wondering, could it even be blood? My friend said, "What the hell is this about?" I said, "It looks pretty weird. I mean, find who?" My other friend was laughing, saying, "Maybe it's the boogeyman. Woo!" His girlfriend started laughing until there was another noise from over the other side of the clearing. My friend walked over and yet again saw another piece of wood with writing on it. He brought it over to show us. "I'm down this direction. Keep going." We all said together, "No way are we going down there." I didn't feel comfortable going to sleep, but it was too late to trek back out of the woods at this time of night, so we just decided to call it a night and be happy to get out of here in the morning. When we were just about to rest our heads and get some sleep, I noticed there was a shadow of a hand outside my tent. I froze in fear, anticipating what it could be outside, and told my boyfriend. He reluctantly opened the zip of the tent, and there, outside of the tent, was a little boy drenched from head to toe in water. He was about 10 years old, and he was crying, saying, Why didn't anyone find me?" Suddenly, he seemed to disappear into thin air. We had the pieces of wood with the writing gathered outside, so we decided to keep them to tell the police the next day. When we did, the sheriff looked at us strange. "Ye damn kids, playing these sick games. Why can't ye let that poor boy rest?" That night, we learned that 10 years ago, on that very night, in the direction the piece of wood was telling us to go, a 10-year-old boy drowned while running from his parents to hide while they were playing hide and seek. My friend and I always used to walk through a wonderful spacious park when we were younger. It was full of tall trees and it was very nicely maintained. In this large park there was an abandoned mansion. I can't really say how long it had been there, but on that day the front door of the mansion was wide open. The two of us decided to check out what was inside the place. As we inched through the door, the very first thing we noticed was that the mansion's floor was littered with crumpled up pieces of paper. We looked at each other and observed that there was no furniture, nothing except for those wrinkled balls of paper. The mansion had 6 rooms on its main floor, and every room we entered bore more and more scrunched up pieces of paper. We decided to open up one of the paper balls to see what was inside. Our curiosity got the better of us. I picked up a single wrinkled piece, and as my friend picked up another, I unfolded my paper, smoothing out its bends and dents. At that moment, it was almost as if a piece of a rainbow emerged before our eyes, and I was suddenly standing next to a large window in one of the upstairs rooms of the house. I was looking outside into the large park when I looked down at the piece of paper I held. It read, "Look outside the large window that oversees the park in the upstairs parlour." I dropped the piece of paper and it fluttered gracefully to the ground. Meanwhile, I stared at my open hands in a bout of horror. Dazed and utterly perplexed, I found my way downstairs and met up with my friend. He was in the kitchen, sitting at a round table that hadn't been there before. Where did that come from? I wondered. My friend stared at his opened paper and reread the words several times before he looked at me and turned the page my way. It said, "Go to the kitchen and sit at the round table." We stared at each other for a few moments, vaguely afraid, but then we began to chuckle. Within seconds, we were laughing our heads off, marvelling at our newfound game. We could hardly believe what had happened, but being young as we were, the mystery was endlessly exciting. We decided again to open up another scrunched piece of paper. As we opened up the crumpled papers on the floor, we experienced the same sudden flash of rainbow colours. But this time I ended lying down in the field behind the mansion. When I peered onto the paper in my right hand, it read, "Lie down in the field behind the mansion." I giggled uncontrollably. After a few minutes of running around the house, I found my friend collecting multiple balls of paper in his arms, eager to experience more of these strange, exciting phenomena. We both got the gist of what was happening at this point. We had no idea as to how it was possible, but we decided to have more fun with it. The supernatural always had a way of captivating our hearts. After a few more run-throughs with these strange mini teleportation devices, I began to feel apprehensive. I wondered if at one point I would be placed somewhere I didn't want to be, or I'd be made to do something that I didn't enjoy. We continued though. Minute after minute we unfolded many papers and travelled through bedrooms, closets, trees, But then, after having been on the roof of the mansion, I stood before my friend, dead on the living room floor. I didn't scream. I couldn't murder him. I read on my crumpled page as I felt a surge of vomit and bile rising into my throat. Nothing came out, but the sickness in my throat spread to my stomach, my head, and my heart. I didn't know what to do at this point. I began to scream and shout, praying to God for this to be a nightmare. I wanted it to go away. I wanted to rewind our day and be outside again, together walking underneath the trees. I willed myself to be calm, and I hesitantly unfolded another paper in the hopes that the problem would correct itself. Once again, I saw the colours of the rainbow, and I found myself standing behind a tree several meters away from the house. I could clearly see the front door within a few instants. I saw both myself and my friend walk through that door. I began to wonder if I had died or if I was having an out-of-body experience. I looked at the sheet in my hand, and the only words scrawled upon it were, "Time will repeat itself, and a paradox will take place, and it will be allowed." That gave me an idea. In my pocket remained the paper that made me kill my friend. Without looking at it, I crumpled it back up. Quietly, I followed my other self, who had separated from my friend, as he explored the rooms of the house. As I crept behind him, he turned around very suddenly. Before he could utter a syllable, I forced the paper in front of my eyes, and in a flash of rainbow colours, I was able to kill my other self. The laws of time allowed me to take over my dead self's place in this world, and also because of the fact that it was allowed to happen. As it was written on the second piece of paper that I had on me, which reversed time, it must have control over time and paradoxes, which made me now the new alive and present of my other dead self. I hid my limp, bleeding other dead self in a cupboard in the upstairs bathroom to rot. To my great relief, I heard my friend call my name from downstairs. My friend who managed to stay alive and well, my best friend. When I went downstairs, he greeted me excitedly, smiling childishly, and being blissfully unaware of the situation. I pretended that nothing had happened. In a heartbeat, I told him that the house creeped me out and that it would be much better if we left. After that day, we never went near the mansion again. I don't know if anyone saw or heard about anything that happened between us, but I recently heard from another friend that the house had been demolished. I dreaded the probable prospect that my corpse was uncovered in the bathroom cabinet. I am just one of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that are about to invade one of the most protected areas of the United States of America. It is in Area 51, a secret US Air Force military installation located at Groom Lake in southern Nevada. The hype and plans were going on for months. We had the plan to all get security outfits, the same that are worn at the base, so we couldn't be told apart from everyone else. When the day came, we must have looked like a swarm of ants from an aerial view. There were so many of us, we were ready and hoped no one would get hurt. We eventually got into the base by storming through the fence, and it looked like they didn't want to hurt so many people because thankfully the real security didn't shoot anyone, or maybe it was just that our plan worked, and with us all wearing the same security suit, they didn't take the risk of killing anyone of their own. We all started talking about it to each other, and something weird happened. Every person I spoke to complained of the same problem during the weeks running up to our invasion. We all had a weird ringing in our ears. We were coming up to the main base, where the aliens must be, when suddenly the ringing started very loud. All of us could hear it as we all started falling about like we were drunk. I felt dizzy, and suddenly I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a huge UFO overhead, and all I can remember is a huge light shining bright down on us, and we all seemed to be sucked into the UFO. If you are hearing my words, it is working. The aliens have left me broadcast from their planet to leave a message to planet Earth. This day will probably go down in history as the day they took humans away. But I can say now that we are okay, and hopefully soon we will return to Earth. Our alien friends are not harming us in any way, but what they do say is we are harming ourselves, and we are killing our own planet. I only hope this message reaches Earth and wakes people up to the fact we need to look after our planet, as right now it's being destroyed. Please, if you do get this transmission, take action and save our planet. I was hanging out at the bar with my friends, and they were talking about this weird guy called Brian B. Westbay on Facebook. The bar was very loud, so I couldn't really follow what they were saying, but it sounded very interesting to me, so I researched it when I went home. It was very strange and lured me in to find out more and more about him. I read in a forum that he wasn't really a person, not human, and was some sort of supernatural entity. There were multiple rumours, but there were two main stories that caught my eye. One was that Brian's account was set up by the government to add as many people on Facebook as they can and spy on them. But there was a glitch in the system, and it gathered no information and brought back no results the government were hoping to get. The second main story is the one that really grabbed my attention, and to me sounded more plausible. It was that Brian B. Westbay was a regular everyday guy who was obsessed with social media. He was constantly posting updates from when he woke up and got out of bed in the morning to when he went to sleep at night. One night he got very drunk and came home and started posting very embarrassing stuff, and one of the videos went viral. Brian was so embarrassed he committed suicide. I was looking at his profile and it was mainly empty. There were no updates, no profile picture, etc. but I added him just out of curiosity. A few minutes later, he accepted my request. I was startled when I got a message in my inbox which said, "I am happy to be your friend." I answered back, "Hi Brian, thanks for accepting." I got a reply, "We are friends." And every single message I sent for the next few minutes, I got the same reply, "We are friends." I lost my cool not getting no proper reply, so I typed in capital letters and sent, "Can we speak?" A few seconds later, an audio file was sent, and there was static noise, but I could feel my heart thump in my chest when I heard a weird voice at the end say, "Hello, friend." It frightened me so much I messaged back, "We are not friends." I got back different sad emojis. Suddenly, his profile picture changed to a creepy face. I looked at it and suddenly felt myself drawn to look at it more closely. That night, when I turned off my lights, I saw his face. I felt dread at the vision of the face just inches from me. I froze with fear. As days went by, I kept seeing him, more and more. When I wake up during the night, his creepy face is inches from me, looking right at me. Brian Westbay wants to be friends with me and so many more people, I bet. But remember, if you come across his Facebook profile, before you add him, just know that he is a friend you can't get rid of. It was a beautiful summer's day, and I was walking along the countryside to unwind from a hard week's work. I was never down this road, and the reason is because I took a break from work for a week in as backward a place as I could get in the middle of Texas. This was my first day here, and I must admit the scenery is beautiful. I came across a farm, and suddenly, breaking the peaceful tranquility of the countryside atmosphere, I heard a screech. I wondered, what could it have been? So I investigated. I walked behind the barn and could see, way down a hill, a man with a huge knife, and it looked like he was about to cut the other man's head off. I felt goosebumps crawl all over my body, and I just froze, afraid I'd let them know I was here, and he would definitely kill me also for witnessing it. I hid behind the barn, then took another peek down the hill to see were they still there. Then I ran as fast as I could. About an hour later, I found a local police station and explained it to the sheriff. He said he would drive out there right away, and he took my number and he said he would keep me updated. The weird thing was, the sheriff told me he went down to the place I mentioned, but there was no barn and no farm, but just overgrown fields. I couldn't understand what was happening and pleaded with him to drive me down to where I saw it. I was dumbfounded when we got there, as it was just how the sheriff said. There was no barn, but just overgrown fields. The sheriff asked me, was I on something, or had I the wrong place? But I knew I hadn't the wrong place. The question was, how and why was it so different? I went back to my motel a few hours later and lied on my bed pondering what was wrong. I tried to come up with some explanation but failed miserably. I got up and switched on the TV, and suddenly numbers popped up on the screen. 120-618-19. I wondered what they popped up for, and had a strange feeling to write them down. I tried to get some sleep then, but was woken by a sound outside the motel. There was an envelope down on the ground. I picked it up, wondering what it was. Wondering, was it for me? There was a receipt for a knife. I thought it very strange, and wondered, was someone playing some kind of sick trick on me? But then my eyes caught something very, very strange. On the paper, I saw the receipt's order number. Looked very familiar. So I took out the piece of paper I had wrote the numbers on that were written on the TV. Sure enough, the numbers matched the receipt's order number, which was 120-618-19. I then thought, maybe the motel had their own way of putting an order number on the TV. But I hadn't ordered anything. My curiosity was growing, and suddenly I had an idea. What if I searched those numbers online? I got out my laptop and searched them, and my jaw dropped and my heart thumped in my chest when I saw what I saw. On the 12th of the 6th, in 1819, there was an execution taking place on this exact date. Today was the 12th of the 6th, 2019, exactly 200 years after that date. I suddenly realised the significance of the numbers. I looked at the photo and saw the two men that I just saw earlier. I felt shivers run up my spine as I tried to fathom, how did I become a witness to an execution that happened 200 years ago? Unless for the unbelievable idea that I must have somehow travelled through a time warp to travel back 200 years to witness it. I couldn't understand what was happening. I jumped when suddenly I heard a knock on the door. I answered it, and what I saw I would never, ever forget. It was the man who was killing the other man in the field, standing right before me. He raised his knife and was about to kill me when suddenly he disappeared. I told a few people, but they wouldn't believe me. I am very afraid that someday the man will come back to kill me, maybe because I witnessed the execution 200 years ago. But as I said, no one would believe me, but the fear is rooted deep in me, and I regret ever coming to this God-forsaken town.